I realized that you could be spending time in many different ways, but you chose to be here with us. So I really appreciate that. This call is not about me trying to sell you anything or lecture you about how things need to be done. This is a collaborative roundtable for us to discuss wins and challenges that impact our businesses, our positions, and learn from one another to get ideas and solutions we can put in place in our workplace as well. I would love to ask for permission to record this session. I don't broadcast this recordings, so it's really more for my notes taking so that I can be present and active instead of trying to frantically type as well. So if you guys are all okay with it, please give me thumbs up. And then so then we can continue. Perfect. I really appreciate it. And we gather out today to envision the journey ahead as a collective efforts to elevate your private label operations to new heights and efficiency of scalability. If you don't have a private label that you're working on, it also applies to any pretty much fashion brand or house brand that you potentially might be working on. Each of you bring unique perspective and expertise, and together we will unlock the pathway to success in even evolving landscape of fashion industry. We're going to cover 4 topics today. Scaling your private label or house brand, if that's more closer to your heart, supply chain optimizations, technology integrations, and overcoming some of the industry challenges that I know you guys have shared with me when you were registering to this event. But I'd love to always start off by why listen to me and why am I doing this? So I'd love to just give a quick little introduction if you guys don't mind. So my name is Evgenia Alexandrovna Yushkova, or simply Yay. So I don't expect anyone to remember this crazy long name, but hopefully Yay is going to be something very simple. And I've been helping fashion brands and retail companies to build house and private label brands with lean design models, optimizing processes to eliminate waste, building a supply chain, and driving a lean manufacturing. I have helped launch and optimize with success 19 private label brands. Few of them were national brands for big box retailers. Most of them generated over a few million of sales in the first year after launch. My team and I not only focus on creating high-performing assortments, design, and product development, but we also think through and take every client through end-to-end process evaluation. And as a result, we optimize processes by cutting down at least 40% of non-value added steps in each of the end-to-end process, resulting lowering operation costs and increasing bottom line profitability. Since I was 4, I wanted to be a fashion designer. So I dedicated 20 years and plus of my career to a fashion industry in the US and Asia. I am passionate about transforming a vision and authentic quality and sustainable lifestyle product that customers love and desire, with next generations in mind. And that is why I'm doing this roundtables, because I am understanding that as we're evolving, we need to come together and be able to share our expertise so that the new entrepreneurs who are coming in and often joining our calls can learn from it as well as we learn from each other. I am passionate about this, and it's absolutely free event. I host it every month on first Tuesday of the month. So I hope to see you guys coming on board more and more often to this particular event. So I'd love to kind of just really quickly start with a quick introduction. So if every single one of you can just quickly introduce your brand and what you're working on, and then we will start right into the discussion of the first topic. I'll start with Rocio. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rocio Evenet. I'm the co-founder of Sewing Incubator. I've been in the business unofficially for 50 years. I'm 53, and I very much like you. I started with my first, toy sewing machine, and it's just been a long adventure from there. I currently, for many years, we've been a development studio, and as of 2008, we started manufacturing in LA. I spent a few years working between LA and in Europe. And in 2008, it just felt right to come back and open a factory, which I couldn't quite do in England. And it's been, pretty good since. I can't really complain. The market has changed a lot. So right now, I've done a lot better than a lot of my competitors who have gone out of business, obviously. But at the same time, I'm right now transitioning into a model where we're exclusively going to be focusing on working with creators. We never really work with traditional big box retailers ever. When we started in 1998, we actually started working exclusively with online retailers at a time where hardly anyone knew what an email address was. So I've managed to stay ahead of the curve. And now, but for me, this just feels like such a hard turn compared to what I've done before, the way I've pivoted before, that it's a little intimidating. So so that's basically what I do, what I'm working
Exciting.
on.
Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. Thank you. Eileen?
Hello, my name is Eileen Holmes. I'm an apparel graphic designer, so like t-shirt graphics, textile repeat patterns. So I've just come out of working in-house a bit ago, so I'm going at it with my freelance again, trying to it's been 10 years since I've last freelanced, and the landscape is totally different. Like yeah, it's harder this time around, even like with all the technology to help. So I need to come up with different strategies to reach out and connect.
Perfect. All right. Well, welcome. Really exciting. I think we'll have some great information that we can learn from each other today. Jesse.
Hi, I'm Jessie. I'm a co-founder of Equals Human, which is one of my businesses, a clothing line that my business partner and I started 2019. We are a sustainable clothing line that is heavily involved in philanthropy and art. We work with a lot of young and upcoming creators. We like to just elevate the upcoming artist. I also have my own art line, and I have a line with my son that he's an 8-year-old artist, and he sells his own prints and his own t-shirts.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wonderful. Wow. And I love that you are already getting the next generation up and ready. That's amazing. So we right on track. Thank you, Jesse, for sharing that. Anna.
Thank you.
Hi. So my name is Anna, and as I mentioned before, I'm currently working for an Italian retail group. A specific brand is called Falconeri, and it's specializing in cashmere directly imported from Mongolia, but we do other natural fibers as well. So the company, it is a corporate company, although it is a privately held company, but it is a very large global retailer. Myself, I've been working in this industry in terms of the retail sector for my whole career. I also started in school wanting to be a fashion designer. I grew up sewing as well, but I quickly found after leaving the university after the first recession that I had a passion for sharing my knowledge and how to dress and fabrics and the beautiful story that is a brand that can share. So I found myself working the last 10 years with European brands that were emerging in the US market, even if they were more established in the European market where they were originally from, and trying to be, on the retail side, but helping them understand, how the market is here in the US, how to reach clients or a new customer in the right way, operational things that needed to be more smoothed out in order to be more accessible and things like that. So I've worked for Spanish, French, Austrian, and now Italian company, and it's been interesting to see through different brand stories, the evolution of how they're being aware here. And I think there's still a similar problem. It really resonates with me also what she was saying a minute ago, that everyone I think has noticed the industry is changing in all aspects, specifically for my brand that I'm working in now. I think one thing that we really had a challenge with in the last year is cashmere has become a very like hot fiber, let's say. So previously we were able to reach and be successful through marketing our direct to consumer basically model of Mongolian cashmere importing raw to our factory in Italy, and then we were able to cut out the middlemen, so we were able to have a more strategic price point. Now, after the pandemic, and since then, this last year, a lot of brands are sharing the same message. So here, especially here in the US, with very strong, let's say, internet marketing, and Quince, Nadam, like a lot of other companies are kind of pushing the same message. So here in the US, that's where we are right now, trying to pivot and not get rid of our original message, but try to understand how we can reach a new consumer or more US consumers while still valuing, our process. But we're not like a fast fashion retailer. We're not going to try to outprice, every lower and lower price, because we believe in quality as well. So yeah, that's why I'm here also, that's my story. That's where we are now. But my passion honestly is again sharing the story of a brand, connecting it, translating it into a new market such as the US, which I'm from and I spent my whole career in. And I really enjoyed European brands, to be honest, on the retail spectrum. I've had the best experience in working with them. So I'm continuing my journey in that way.
Really exciting journey. Thank you for sharing. And you're absolutely right. What I love what you just mentioned, the fact that being resilient and understanding where you have to be able to shift and potentially reach out to a not necessarily different consumer, but expand your customer demographic to attract the new consumers that are coming into the market, right? What driving the value of what's important to them, so that they understand how you are different from everybody else out there. And today, in today's environment, and this is for everybody and for all of us as well to think about, we a lot of times think about, well, we a sustainable brand, and that's what puts us aside. Well, in today's environment, everybody is sustainable. Everybody's trying to be sustainable. So what is that far and beyond message besides sustainability that we're going to put out there in order for us to be able to really truly drive the message of that we are unique, we are quality product, we last for lifetime, we focus on timeless, and whatever that is, would help us hopefully to bring the new demographic to come in and be interested in our brand. Thank you for sharing that. That was wonderful. Maricela, you want to just do a quick intro, and then I'll jump into you and then we'll start the discussion.
Sure, yeah, and that's kind of piggybacking off of where I'm at. Hi, I'm Maricela. I'm a designer, Finnish designer for Levi's, women's denim, global denim. And it's actually kind of a great segue, because that's where we're at, is like, we're a heritage brand. We're 100 and almost 200 years old. And we're trying to figure out who our consumer is, especially for women's product, because we are vastly different from where the company started out from. We have huge customer bases in high stretch, skinnies, like, globally. And that's the product that I work on in particular, as well as product that is like a high novelty, and trying to get, the fashion side of the world, our fashion, more leaning consumers to remember us and consider us when they're making their denim choices. So really for me, it's about, I think where I'm coming from, where I find interest in this, is that I'm just a fashion nerd first and foremost, and like to talk about data stratification of consumers and what it means for something that is so specific like the denim marketplace. So just, happy to hear and learn.
Perfect. Thank you, Marisa, for sharing that. Hugh?
Thanks. Yeah, my name's Hugh Rundle. My company is Brella, and I've started several companies, but this is my first into apparel. And we've come up with a very unique design that makes the rain jacket customizable, and it's unisex, men, women, plus sizes, people with disabilities. And we also have a different unisex size for youth and petite women. And I've done the design, which was pretty simple, and I'm not a fashion designer, but we're just finishing onboarding with Macy's, and hopefully we'll be live once this week or next week after the buyers review it and okay all the content. And we're looking for private label partners to take our rain jacket into their distribution channel, and we may have something for Levi's if you're interested in a talk, Maricela. So
Lovely. Thank you, Hugh. I really
this is networking.
it is networking, so that's exactly what it's all about. Thank you, Hugh. I really appreciate it. Well, let's just, guys, jump into our first topic is scaling your private label. And let's picture this. You are ready to expand your private label or house brand, if that resonates a little bit more to you as well. But the resources are scarce, and our fear of compromising the quality looms large. How do you maintain the excellence with the scaling up? Does anybody have kind of any thoughts around that question so that we can kind of start, or do you prefer for me to kind of just prompt and then we'll start the discussion that way? What makes it easier? If anybody wants to just jump in, go ahead. Okay, so then let me start kind of. So my thoughts around that topic is really truly there are
I can
three.
jump in.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Quality. We're talking quality and scalability, right? And that is exactly what I deal with on a daily basis, because a lot of my clients, that if they're importing, it becomes difficult to scale because they have to work to such long timelines, and it becomes impossible to control the quality. Okay.
Marcia, are you breaking up? I don't know if that's just for me or everybody else.
They manufacture domestically. They're never. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, try again. Yes.
Okay. So the problem that a lot of our clients have, because we're obviously manufacturing domestically for them, as I start growing, the main problem that we have as manufacturers is that there aren't enough qualified people to keep up with the growth. Because when a company these days growth can be very explosive if somebody goes viral off of one TikTok. And as you know, in California, of all places, like, to try and hire a bunch of people in such a short amount of time, it could be the death of any company because of so much regulation. So the main problem is that a lot of the people, you don't have enough skilled people to be able to help support that growth, that fast growth. And at the same time, you can't, as a manufacturer, I can't just suddenly hire hundreds of people, even if they're readily available, because how do I know how long this is going to last? Because as you know, that's the other thing that has changed. So the unpredictability of trends, you know, something is hot one day and 3 TikToks later, it's out. So that's the biggest challenge in terms, in terms of, being able to support brands as they grow.
You're absolutely right. And so with that, what puts me into kind of more thought as well, exactly to what you said, to echo, is that strategic partnerships is going to be number one important factor to be able to have that scalability and growth. And to finding reliable suppliers and having the backup of suppliers as well, to making sure that you can quickly pivot if something goes wrong in the economy, as we saw during COVID, as we saw after past COVID, when other roadblocks actually affected our supply chains. To share your commitment to quality and growth, and making sure that the vendors and suppliers we're picking are fully transparent understanding of where you headed, what your quality standards mean to you, so that they could be able to train their staff and as well deliver the product in the same quality as you need. And ensure the most important thing, that after the strategic partnerships, from what we find with our clients and what we often succeed in, to kind of understanding the data-driven decision making, is to dive into the power of data analytics to forecast the demand accurately, not just on the whim thinking, well, I had great sales coming up from last season, so I'm just going to double my production now. But going back to, if you have at least 3 years of data analysis of your sales to understand the trends and the curves, so that you can strategically be able to forecast your demand accurately and share that with your partners and suppliers, so that they understand what your trajectory is, and they can be prepared ahead of time to, what Rosario said, actually create the staffing if needed, anticipating the growth that is going to happen within the next year or so. And streamlining production processes. A lot of times what we've noticed with a lot of, especially big retail brands, and I'm kind of pointing out to more of corporate brands at this particular moment, is that we run so fast and we focus so much on the design and grabbing the right customer. What we also overlook often is the production processes itself. And then we figure out, okay, well, we've drove the marketing, we've got a lot of sales going on, but how is it that our companies are still not coming, not profitable at the bottom line? Well, a lot of it, what eats up, is the resources that are wasted on not efficient processes in the back end. So as you are in those leading roles, it's important that we collaborate with our production teams, we collaborate with our operation teams to make and challenge them to make sure that their processes is optimized, as while you are bringing in all these different designs and as well as working in the marketing to the customers. Optimizing the inventory management is a critical aspect in order for us to be able to continue growth, to minimize waste. I mean, I can't stop talking about this with everybody and all of our clients as well, that you don't have to have a broad line. You don't have to have a lot of SKUs. You need to stay narrow and focused so that you can go deep. And when you are projecting that inventory, you want to make sure that you are throwing away the tail end and focus on 20% that drives 80% of your sales. That's the bread and butter, and that is what you're going to be able to make the money and make sure that it sells through, and you don't have to have all this wasted inventory that then you have nothing to do with. The other aspect I think is really important is lean manufacturing, and embracing the principle of lean manufacturing to trim down the access and maximizing the efficiency is so critical. We don't think of it as much in the fashion industry. It's very much practiced in automotive. It's very much practiced in other industries. But in the fashion industry, perhaps we still, for some reason, didn't catch that train. So I think, talking about and raising the awareness, besides just the sustainability, it's important to talk about the lean manufacturing that you potentially have, or build that into your manufacturing processes. That will not only bring you profitability long run, but as well as help you to create that easy scalability as you are growing and expanding. Anybody have any other thoughts to share on this topic before we move on to the next one? All right, perfect. Well, and that kind of plays back into the supply chain optimization. And the challenge is navigating a complex web of suppliers, juggling transparency and traceability, and weathering storms of supply chain disruptions. They're constantly coming at us, especially in the last 5 years. I mean, we all constantly are roadblocked with something's happening in the supply chains. So how do we keep a flow of steady throughout all of this chaos? Anybody kind of want to jump in? Okay, one of the first things I believe, it's visibility is a key. And so imagine having a real-time insight in your supply chain, from raw materials to finished products, empowering you to make informed decisions and swiftly address any kind of hiccups. Having a real-time data availability to and a pulse, not just on what is happening in your particular warehouse of the raw materials, but as well as collaborating with your suppliers and able to, with technology integrations, to integrate into their system so that you can constantly see a real-time data of what is happening with their supply as well, so that you can quickly analyze and pivot. You're going to hear me a lot of time talking about data. And the reason I say this, because again, in the fashion industry, what we've noticed, a lot of it happens on the whim, especially for smaller brands who are starting up. We're not paying attention so much on data analytics, and as well as understanding that real-time data is so important because it helps us to predict and be proactive versus being reactive. Is anybody kind of felt that in their positions?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I have.
All right. And then how did that affected your business or how did you able to get out of that, because you were able to be having a pulse on your supply chain of real-time data?
Well, I'll go. With some of the people I'm dealing with, being Walmart and Macy's and possibly Tractor Supply, they all are automated. And if you don't automate with their EDI systems, you're not getting their business. That's a requirement for them. Now, some of them, like Walmart, have their own EDI systems, but if you have a product that has high volume, then that's a whole different EDI solution that you're going to end up paying for. That's okay. Divine would take care of that. With Macy's, it's a little different because they just sync into my Shopify store. Okay, so there's APIs that interface, but you're absolutely right. Data is absolutely the key. And if you won't do business with any of these people unless they feel comfortable that when they place an order within 1 or 2 days, it's out the door and they have the tracking number, the customer has the tracking number and everything else. And if you have to do all of that manually, God bless you, because if you're doing a lot of volume, you're going to be doing a lot of manual processes that'll just put you under.
Absolutely. And also thinking about as you are on the flip side, right? As you are the vendor who is actually hiring other suppliers to get their raw materials, is thinking how can you integrate something of a vendor portal so that you can have that real time updates, so that you can constantly know where they stuck, whether it's a raw materials, whether that's a gray goods or anything else, so that you could be able to plan for it. Rocio, you had some point you want to share.
Yeah, so it's puzzling to me that with so many platforms becoming accessible, some of them are free these days, that more, even smaller companies are not paying attention to it. So one thing I found, for many years now, I've worked on implementation. So a lot of times, a struggling company will call us just to, get a fresh pair of eyes to assess where their problems are coming from. So what I find, even as recently as 3 months ago, I went up to this company. They're doing amazing. They have a lot of sales. They're doing a very specialized product. But what I noticed is that the problem with fashion companies, I feel like they're very segmented because a lot of times they don't understand the impact of the choices that they make when choosing a platform to use, because they're so busy with everything else, with the more like creative part. They'll delegate it to someone with a strong background in IT, but not necessarily an integration background. So that's where I see the most disconnect. And, I'm surprised that more companies are not aware that sometimes it's just cheaper to literally design your own in-house solution that flows to your own individual setup and workflow versus trying to fit in, 3, 5 different, platforms and somehow trying to make them fit. I've seen that go so wrong so many times that, you know, these days I make an assessment, and if I feel that, you know, they almost need to start from scratch, usually they're very reluctant until they see the numbers and the cost savings. So that's one area where I feel there aren't too many people that started out in fashion like I did and that made the decision to jump into technology. I made that decision 20 years ago, and that have that, you know, that know how the information needs to flow to get results, more predictable results. That's a very hard position to fill.
So Rocio, you actually brought up a really good point that also thinks that, you know, not to be scared to take a step back and you look at your holistic business from end to end. Because a lot of times, to your point, we piecemeal, right? So we have a challenge within our production. So we're going to implement the system so that it can do this for us, right? Then we have challenges in our design. We're implementing a PLM that is doing this for us. But none of them are really talking, or we are doing redundant work because we're inputting one piece of information in one system, then we're carrying it over and actually putting that same exact information into a different system because nothing is talking. So the automations, once you map out your full process from the very beginning of the inception of design and planning all the way to the customer and fulfillment, mapping it all on one giant piece of paper, I mean hypothetically speaking, right, obviously, but making sure then finding out where the connection points needs to happen, where the automations needs to happen so that the information flows seamlessly from the design all the way to the e-com team, as an example, with all of the attributes already preset so that PM can pushes it to the e-com, and then vice versa. From that information goes into the order management systems and so forth. So but to your point, the only way to do this seamlessly, if you are stepping back and looking at your whole process holistically versus trying to patch the symptom of whatever that you're trying to patch at that particular moment. So great point that you have brought up. I really appreciate that. Anybody else that want to kind of jump in how they feel about that particular piece or any other pieces in the supply chain before we move forward?
I think if you're dealing as a small company, find yourself an e-commerce platform. I use Shopify. Now, Shopify has a lot of what are called APIs, which are nothing more than interfaces that interface with other systems, so you can transfer data real easy. That's the best way to get started, because you don't have funds to do, you got funds either for fashion and inventory and marketing. And if you've got to throw on $500 a month for IT, that ruins your budget. And so
Correct.
If you've got something that's already developed, you may have to pay a little bit more for it, but you're really paying a lot less because you don't have to worry about all the interfaces. And in dealing, a lot of them have interfaces with larger companies, like so they can transfer your data, and when you place an order, then it goes through and they know and you know. And so try to get yourself an e-commerce platform, whether it's, you know, Shopify or there's a bunch of them out there, but you want to get one that has an interface with companies you think you're going to be dealing with already developed.
You're absolutely right, Hugh.
A lot of time. A lot of time.
Great point. And I think Anna had something to say as well, no?
Yeah, I was just going to talk about scalability. I feel like, although I do work in a big company, each brand kind of functions as its own entity, and especially when going into new markets or new territories. So let's say the US is a subsidiary and each brand has grown or scaled in a different way. Something that we recently have been tackling, or we have a solution now, but after COVID, of course, the supply chain was a huge issue for our online store, especially because we had a US e-commerce site, but all the goods were coming from Italy. So you can imagine that created huge lag times right after, during and after COVID. After that, we integrated an in-house system, which is like a hybrid, where we were basically shipping everything from our flagship location for all online orders. This worked quite well for a couple of years, but in the last 2 years, the growth has been like triple digits. And so we found ourselves in a place last year where we had to figure out the next steps in terms of course, because the growth was so much that we were going to start losing. We were starting to have a lot of customer service issues. So just as you were pointing out earlier, at a certain point, then you can actually backtrack your business and you lose a lot of the new clients that you just recently acquired because you're not able to fulfill in a seamless way that provides them with good service and good turnaround times. So the last year was definitely a lot of on the, again, the retail side or customer service side of managing these situations. But the company made a decision, and this is again something that your company has to decide if you're not the one running the company. But at a certain point, you have to invest in a new logistical situation because again, you're going to lose a lot of the business that you're growing, and you're not going to continue to grow. So we were able to decide to expand or move our actual US warehouse for all the brands to create a new space. And we're integrating now this year our items into this new warehouse so that we can have a more automated system and we can have a better experience all around. And so that's basically like at a certain point, just to say that, you know, growth is amazing, but if you don't have the right scalable plan in place for the logistics side or the shipping side, you will potentially lose, not just because TikTok trends change, but because you can't, or because the order is placing, but even in-house, even if you create your own system, you have to decide at a certain point. And we'll see, this new journey will be very interesting because we were also able to control the quality of the experience to a certain level because we were shipping everything in-house.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if a customer comes into the store and we have an issue with an online order, we're actually able to solve it in real time. And as a leader of the, like as a someone that in my position that's overseeing the brands or the historics, the retail experience, the retail side of it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to see also real time the feedback loop of an experience or an issue with a product or an issue with the website because I can speak to the person in real life. However, now that's going to be a new challenge where this is going to be something that's not part of my daily business, but it's going to affect obviously how many people are enjoying the brand coming to the store, but I'm no longer going to have a direct hand or a direct experience with the return sale experience of the client. So that will be a new challenge for us as we have scaled and we're no longer in all in one space. So
Makes sense.
Just my feedback. Yeah.
But you do guys have still have opportunities of collecting that data so that you can pull that
Yes.
and analyze it and bucket it, right? To where the
Yes.
what is that customer experience and
Yes.
what the customer feedback is, so you could be able to integrate that back into your
Yes.
process of rebuilding.
So we still have, for example, previously, I'm excited about is that since we're going to be in a larger space and it will be more automated, we'll be able to track more quickly with data. And previously there was a lot of things that were being done by hand or more like on a small scale. So of course it's like a lot of time and it's harder to collect and create like the proper averages and things like that, other than just the regular sale data that we collect from the website, but like the actual full 360 view now will be more automated, which will be great. And we do have still like data talking about like we can now place an order in store that will still be picked up in store. It's going to be more automated. So I think the data actually will be easier to translate because before, since it was so in-house, again, you don't really get to, it's hard to compile all the data in a way that is a quick and effective way because again, if you're doing it by hand, like we're not out here using abacuses anymore. And like we have computers to do that for us. So in this way, when you scale, if you have this opportunity, that can also provide you, again, with more data to make the strategic decisions in the future.
That's perfect, Anna. Thank you for your input. That's wonderful for sharing that. Thank you. Risi, you had another point?
Yeah, I think it's important because, so I think it's important to also realize that the structure of the company and the culture of it makes a huge difference. For example, I've worked across, transnational teams. I worked at Zara at one point. I worked at Burberry. The cultures are completely different. But what I saw that was very interesting at Zara, that was the first time where I saw that a corporation of that size was able to integrate already existing software with their own custom APIs that they would build in-house. So that's what I was referring to when I said that, you know, a lot of times it's not so much that the price is an issue, the cost of the software is an issue. It's just really how to integrate it, taking into consideration all those factors that have nothing to do with software. The other thing I wanted to mention, one last thing, is also the fact that a lot of times you'll see data that is just highlighting what the problem is, but it doesn't necessarily diagnose where the problem is coming from. And that's the area that, again, where I see most companies run into trouble, because, you know, it's very rare that you'll find one person who has worked across all the departments and is also, you know, knowledgeable of software integration to that level. So
Correct.
that's
So to your point,
like a unicorn.
To your point, Rocio, is to find the root cause and treat that root cause versus trying to treat the symptom and then and over and over again, which a lot of times is exactly what we're doing. So you're absolutely, that's where it's amazing to bring in actually sometimes an outside expert to be able to help you look at that holistic approach of end to end versus just focusing on, well, I have this one issue and I'm trying to solve this one issue. Typically, this one issue is just a symptom of one underlying problem that no one's talking about or able to see. So absolutely correct. And so another thing I wanted to kind of, you know, wrap up this topic with one more point is considering how everything is shifting, to your point, guys, and especially in our supply chains, the importance of diversifying sourcing options is vital to mitigating the risk and optimizing operations. By exploring sourcing options across multiple regions and suppliers, business spread their risk and enhance quality and optimize cost. It is important that if you are currently having a supply chain, and I think, Anna, you could speak to that even more just based on the experience that you have shared with us earlier, is that if your product or raw materials are coming from one particular region, if you don't have a backup of a different region that can step in, you are going to probably run into a problem at some point in a recent time, just because of what's happening in economics, what's happening in politics, what's happening in everything else out there. It's important to have diversify and have a backup plans. So I just wanted to kind of lead with that in this particular topic until we move on, because I wanted to make sure we have a little bit of time to touch base on some of the other industry challenges that we are seeing. You know, in the world of the rapid shifting trends, right, force of competition and growing sustainable is concerning. So how do we carve out that niche and stay ahead of the curve? You know, what would that be so that, to your Anna's point, to Hugh's point, you know, to Rocio, you made that great point, is how do we make sure that we are noticed, that, you know, what we are driving, our product has the unique value? So anybody wants to kind of jump in and talk a little bit about that? Okay, then I'll start. So, you know, one of the things we're seeing is, number one, is to truly identify what you are the best at and focus on that particular product. But it's not enough to create the product that just looks good, or, you know, it's creative because it has beautiful artwork on it or whatever else, because there's so much out of it there. It's important to find the need that you are solving with your product to the customer. In today's environment, customers will gravitate towards a product that they believe in, that solves their issue, whatever that issue might be. That's what comes from the understanding your target audience. But at the same time, it builds up an emotional connection. So we constantly kind of talk about, you know, well, I'm going to have a sustainable product. Well, like I mentioned earlier on a call, everybody's having sustainable product nowadays because that is required, right? That is required by the industry. So what sets you apart from the sustainability? You know, in Hugh's case, he has patented a product. Now, it's a great that you have a patent, right? But at the same time, again, to a regular consumer, they don't care whether you have a patent or not. What they care about is that you are solving their needs. And so the question is, how do we bring that message to whether you are trying to find a private label partner, like in Hugh's case, so that that particular retailer understands that I have to go in after Brella's product because that solves the need to my customer that I don't have from anybody else, right? Which in his case, that it fits, it's one size fits all. It doesn't matter what body type you are. It's going to give you a full coverage. It will not soak in the rain after 10 hours of raining, weather like we have in New York outside. He was trying to get into the collegiate market, building that picture and building that as an example. Sorry, I'm using your example, but it's just closer to my heart at the moment, that we are building a case study, right, to present that to the retailers or potentially a private label partners that can be able to differentiate from all other raincoats that out there, right? So building that and building, how do we build it? It's through the story, right? Having the consumer potentially wearing it the game day and it's raining and everybody is soaked while they're wearing their little zip up hooded jackets, where your is a fully solution where, after all those 3 hours of sitting in the rain after the game, you take it off and you're fully dry. So that's where it's important to bring in that solution that to your partners or to potential partners that you're trying in, so that they see the value in your brand among everybody else. Not focusing so much that it's patent, not focusing so much that it's sustainable. I mean, obviously that's important messages, but that's not what sets you apart. What sets you apart, for example, that you are the only raincoat out there that really truly fits one size fit all and truly will protect you from the rain no matter what happens. So anybody else has any kind of last thoughts around this topic before we wrap up? Go ahead, Ricio.
I have one. So I think it's very important to diversify. I know that some products are more suitable for big box retailers, but what I found recently, so we have had a client who went out of business with a bang. Like everybody found out about it, Zulily. Mm-hmm. So because we're so deep in the supply chain, we're the first ones to be affected, because at the end of the day, okay, so the consumer, a lot of consumers, made their purchases. A lot of them are still waiting for refunds, whatever. But the minute they of course, and I've spoken to another manufacturer who's going through the same thing. We had no idea that was going to happen. We basically found out about a cancellation like the day after we had already found out through the news. So with that in mind, the good thing is that I've never been one to put all my eggs in one basket. So all these other indie brands who are actually more reliable in a way, I was able to weather that situation much better than some of my colleagues who had put, like, basically for a few of them, that was one of their main accounts. There's one factory that was their big account. So I'm bringing this up because right now, the retail as a whole is so tumultuous right now. It's so tumultuous. And on one hand, there's a lot of there's a lot of challenges coming ahead. But on the other hand, I feel like a lot of the clients that we work with, the other difference is that in this day and age, before, when I first started, most of my clients had some industry background. Okay, my clients were different. I was dealing with buyers. I was dealing with production managers. Today, the startups, the new emerging brands are, for the most part, people who just know how to use social media, are generating attention. And because they're the force behind the brand, They already have the authenticity that more established brands can only dream of, because people are not buying from a brand, they're buying from the creator.
Correct.
Okay, so I think it's become increasingly more difficult for more established brands to put across that authenticity.
You're
Because
absolutely
that's
right.
really what the consumer is buying. Consumers, they don't care about the brands. And especially the younger generation, I think they don't care. If it makes them happy, if it's something cool that they want, they don't care where they get it from. So I think it's important to remember that at all times. That's the biggest shift that I've noticed. Like, we're no longer dealing with professionals, with buyers, with production managers, with salespeople. No, we're now dealing with consumers.
You're absolutely right. You brought up a great point. And on the flip side, from those entrepreneurs who are starting up, who are kind of at that beginning phase, is to focus on not just, hey, I know I can have this product and I can market it and have people buy it, but now take a step back and understand, okay, well, now how do I deliver the quality so that customer, once they bought it once, they will return again. I always say this, that it's easier to find a first-time customer than it is to have a customer that comes back over and over and buy from you. So building that credibility is through the quality of the product, through the fast deliveries, right? To make sure that they are receiving the product exactly how they expected, through the transparent messages of your supply chain and sustainability factors are really going to be critical in this particular case as well. Whether you are just starting up, or whether you are a true already brand who has started for a while ago and then trying to figure it out, the new ways to navigate the shifts and the trends. I 100% agree. Well, thanks, guys. I really want to just kind of start wrapping up because I want to be respectful of everybody's time. This was a fantastic discussion. Jesse and Aline, I know that you guys will stay a little bit on the quiet side, but I hope you got a lot of valuable information from this call. I'd love to learn more about your guys as well. I'd love to offer everybody an extent to see if anybody wants to connect with me, have a discovery call so that we can learn more about your business needs and challenges. I can align our unique methods and expertise to define the root causes with what you want to improve and create, and then define the roadmap to specifically for your needs. So if anybody's interested, just send me a chat. We'll send you guys a link to my calendar. It's absolutely free. I'm extending it to the group here. So today that you guys can be able to book some time and we can have some discussions further on one-on-one. So anybody interested, drop in the chat, let me know. Meanwhile, I'd love to really express gratitude for you guys spending the time here. I hope this conversation was valuable. I look forward to see every single one of you in our upcoming other events. The next month, we're going to be talking about amplifying the visibility and market impact of private label or house brands. So I know that that's a hot topic for most of you guys based on the responses I've received. So that I think will be really valuable for you guys to join. We'll be talking about a little bit more there as well. Meanwhile, I'd love to reserve the last 3 minutes of our call for just a quick testimonial, if whomever is open to do it. That portion I will record and share. So this is for more of the next people who are interested in joining, so that they understand what this calls are all about, whether it was valuable or not, so they can hear it not just from me, but from the actual peers of the industry. So, if anybody, I'm going to go down the list, and if you guys feel comfortable, please share just whether it was valuable, and any other message you want to share to the next group. That would be great. Jesse, I'm going to start with you.
This was a great meeting, so thank you very much. I appreciate all your time and all your information. I am one of those that knows nothing about fashion. I've built a bunch of businesses my own. I was a builder for 15 years. I've always been an artist and a creative, but I'm the producer, I'm the co-founder, I'm the back of the house, I'm the social media, I'm the fabric buyer, I'm the everything. So I am that person that comes into the factory not knowing what the hell to do and saying, can you help me? And also spending a lot more than I need to because I don't know exactly what I'm doing or where to go or how to do it. It has been challenging, obviously starting through COVID, but we're still here. But it's been challenging. But this has been a really informative roundtable, and it's nice to hear from more seasoned people in the fashion world.
Perfect. Jesse, I'd love to jump with you on a call one-on-one, because I think we have something that I can be able to share with you that's specifically geared to entrepreneurs like yourself, that will help you to actually succeed in what you're doing. So, I'm going to send you a link. I'd love to have a discussion with you shortly so that we can address some of your challenges as well. Perfect. Thank you. Absolutely. Rocio.
Okay, yeah, this has been a wonderful experience. I didn't know what to expect, but I'm very impressed and delighted with the wide assortment of experiences and wide assortment of products and projects and backgrounds that everybody comes from. It's giving me some food for thought, which is always a good thing. I always like to, I welcome a good challenge. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Perfect. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. That's exciting. Aline.
Hey, the topic is not really applicable to what I do, and because I'm pretty much art focused, make it look pretty and not worry about, I could do like screen printing separations or that kind of thing, but I'm not really involved in the whole producing and getting out the door. But it's cool to see that perspective, so I have an understanding of what everybody's dealing with.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate for sharing your valuable feedback. Anna.
I'm here. Sorry.
No
Hi.
worries.
So kind of the same thing. Like, I feel like it was really nice to hear some different perspectives from both ends of it. From, of course, large scale and small scale. And it's always nice to discuss the industry that, with fellow peers that I've made my life out of. So with New York City always in the background.
I love that. Thank you for joining. He keeps going for sure. And I'm so glad you were able to make on the call. And I hope to see you on our other calls as well, and sharing your insights and expertise. I think that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And then Hugh.
Yeah, it's always valuable listening to your webinars, just because everybody has different perspectives. And one of the things we've concentrated on is how do we make the end user happy? And we didn't talk about, you got to make sure that your distributor or whoever your reseller is, that's another path of happiness. You have to understand what their priorities are, and they may be different than yours. And so there's two customers you got to serve here. And most people don't keep that in mind. They think it's just the person who's buying them.
100%. You brought up a fantastically valuable point, and I think that is what we're going to discuss next in March, because that's going to be a very good topic to put into where we're going to where we're headed. I really appreciate, guys, for all your time. It was really beautiful to meet with all of you. I look forward to hear more from you, and look forward to some of the one-on-ones. I believe